Hello. Today, I thought I'd do a lesson about memory and being able to remember things. And really, it's because I read two books. I've got one of these books here, Yoko Ogawa, The Housekeeper and the Professor. I think it was made into a movie 10 years ago in Japan. But I just read the English translation. And I also read the English translation of another of her books called The Memory Police in English. I don't know what it's called in Japanese, maybe something similar. And both books are about memory and how important that it is to our life. Of course, that might seem a bit obvious, but let me just. The book that I really enjoyed was The Housekeeper and the Professor, and it's a story of a housekeeper, a young woman, young mother, whose job is to clean the house. And she works for a professor who has lost his memory, or at least he can only remember what's happened in the last 80 minutes. So he's a very brilliant man. He knows lots about maths and mathematics and rules and formulas, everything that he remembered when he was a young man. But now he's in his 60s. He had a car accident and can't remember anything after the car accident. So his memory only lasts for 80 minutes. So every time he meets somebody, they meet and they say hello or whatever. But after 80 minutes, he's forgotten who they are and he has to meet them again. So the housekeeper comes every morning and has to introduce herself. I'm your housekeeper. Oh, really? What's your name? And it's quite an interesting idea. But of course, what happens is that the housekeeper develops a liking. They don't fall in love, but they have she sees in him like a father figure that she didn't have, and he becomes kind of like the grandfather to her young son, and it's very nice. It's very touching. It's very interesting how you could have a relationship with somebody even though they can't remember who you are, and you have to introduce yourself every morning. It's a bit like somebody with Alzheimer's. But in fact, to me, the message of the novel is that that memory isn't, of course, it's important, but it isn't the most important thing. It's how you behave and the actions that you take. And so even though the housekeeper's, the professor can't remember anything, he still is a great addition to the housekeeper's life. Nothing to do with money or anything. It's all about the relationship with her and her son, and they develop a love for him really, and they act like a little family where there wasn't a family before. So I thought it was very moving, very emotional, sweet kind of. There's no murder mystery or anything, but rather nice about human life and how we need each other sometimes, even when we're broken. Another novel of hers, I think it was an earlier one, but it was translated later into English more recently, I guess because of the success of Housekeeper and the Professor, is The Memory Police. And here, the interesting idea is that for some reason, we never learn why, but the government decides to get rid of certain items and everybody has to forget them. So, for example, I can't remember, my memory's going. They something like, they decide that the government decides that people don't need to have oranges, mikan oranges. So everybody has to forget the taste of oranges, and anybody who can still remember it is rounded up by the police and taken away. And it's just a weird novel, really. It's about how we live without things and how we can just suddenly. Actually, humans are great at adapting, and we can get used to living without things. Never really explains why we should. It's not. It's quite an interesting novel, but it's not quite as good as the first one, I think. But it is interesting about memory and how memory plays a part in our life. Okay, that's my little talky bit done. So I got 3 questions. Number 1, have you ever forgotten anything important? I'm sure you have. Are you ready to talk about it? And how does that make you feel, and what effect did that have? As I get older, I forget more and more things. but most of it's not important. Most of life isn't important, I don't think. Number 2, what notes would you write to yourself if your memory only lasted 80 minutes? Oh, I forgot to mention, yes, in the housekeeper and the professor, to keep the important information, the professor writes a little note and pins it to his jacket. So he writes, my memory only lasts 80 minutes, and puts it on his jacket, and then he draws a picture of his housekeeper. So this is my housekeeper. So if he forgets everything, he can check his memory. It's like a computer going into the hard disk. Oh yes, I forget. Maybe he writes his name or things. If your memory was really unreliable, it only lasted 80 minutes, what important notes would you write down to carry with you that you wouldn't forget? I don't know. I am an English teacher. I like sausages. I don't know. Okay, number 3. If you can't remember anything, is there any reason to do it? Oops, there's a missing O there. Let's see if I can correct that. If you can't remember anything, is there any reason to do it? Oh, let me zoom in, actually. These are hard to see, aren't they? I guess the meaning here is, if you can't remember all the things that you do in life, why do you do them? I think about these things. Actually, I'm recording this in the library, in the new library of the New Tower English. And when I think about it, all of these are just memories. These are like all these books. They're memories for me for when I bought them, when I read them, and how I felt when I first read them. But they're also memories of the authors, all the people who wrote these stories. If they're not dead yet, they will be soon, fairly soon. So this is kind of like a record of people's lives. So memories, the libraries are like a living, not living, a dead memory. That's a sad thought, isn't it? But actually, it's quite. Maybe that's why I like to sit in the library. I'm surrounded by people's ideas and people's memories, and in a way, it keeps all these people alive. If I have this library, so if that helps, or is more complicated. If you can't remember anything, is there any reason to do it? Philosophical question. Okay, good luck with these very difficult topics, but a chance to speak English and to think about 2 very good books. If you get the chance, if you haven't read it in English, you should probably read it in Japanese. The Housekeeper and the Professor was really good, I thought. Memory Police, so. Okay, see you soon. Bye. Let me close this off. Okay, see you soon.